Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking a really fascinating journey right into the ancient, hidden machinery of the cosmos. Seriously, if you've ever looked at a horoscope and thought, that's just mystical guesswork, well, prepare to have your mind completely blown. Because what we're actually looking at today is a deeply rigorous system of ancient mathematics and super intricate astronomical geometry. We're going to unlock this cosmic clockwork together and see exactly how these ancient algorithms tick.
To kick things off, let's look at this quote straight from the foundational text we're diving into today, the Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra, specifically verses 4 through 6. It says, "Those are called planets that move through the nakshatras. Based on the ascendant and the planets joining and departing from each other, the natives' good and bad effects are deduced." Reading this direct English translation from the ancient scripture really sets the tone for us, doesn't it? It tells us right out of the gate that these celestial mechanics, the precise joining and departing of planets, are the actual, literal gears driving all astrological deductions.
Okay, so let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll set the celestial stage, then move on to planetary positions and motions, explore the geometry of aspects, get into calculating the cosmic math, and finally, synthesize the horoscope.
All right, let's start with part 1, setting the celestial stage.
So the ancient sky is actually incredibly structured. You've got the zodiac divided into 27 asterisms or nakshatras and your standard 12 signs. But the real main characters here are the planets, and they all have very distinct roles. On one side, we have our malefics. Think the Sun, Saturn, Mars, the decreasing moon, and the lunar nodes Rahu and Ketu, which generally bring a harsher energy to the table. On the flip side, we have our benefics, Jupiter, Venus, and the increasing moon, bringing in those favorable conditions. But okay, look at Mercury. Mercury is the wild card here. The text specifically notes that Mercury's nature is totally adaptable. It literally becomes a malefic if it's joined with one. How cool is that? It just goes to show how interactive and dynamic this whole system really is.
Moving right along to section 2, planetary positions and motions.
Now take a look at this breakdown of the average daily motions of our celestial bodies. The contrast here is just wild. Right at the top, you've got the blazing speed of the moon, literally tearing through 13 to 15 degrees of the sky every single day. But then scan your eyes all the way down to the bottom. Saturn is barely moving at a sluggish 2-minute crawl. It's basically the absolute turtle of the zodiac. And these radically differing speeds, they are absolutely crucial. They act quite literally like gears spinning in a massive cosmic clock. Because they're all moving at totally different rates, they are constantly forming brand new, highly specific geometric alignments with each other.
Which brings us to section 3, the geometry of aspects.
So the ancient term for this planetary interaction is drishti, which translates to aspect. As you can see, drishti is defined as the angular line of sight, or the longitudinal distance through which planets observe and exert their influence over one another. And guys, it's not just some vague mystical feeling. It is a strict mathematical rule. The source text makes it super clear that planets located in movable signs, fixed signs, and common signs have highly specific, calculated sight lines to other signs. For example, a planet sitting in a movable sign naturally aspects 3 fixed signs, entirely based on its exact angular position in the sky.
To make this a bit easier to visualize, the ancient texts actually map out these lines of sight using diagrams. What we're looking at here is an aspectual diagram, which the text describes as being dictated by Lord Brahma himself. Basically, you draw a square or a circle and mark out the 8 directions, so the 4 corners and the 4 quarters. By mapping the zodiac signs to the east, west, north, south, and the diagonals, you end up creating a really precise 2-dimensional spatial map that shows exactly how these planetary energies intersect and cross over one another.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it takes those abstract rules and applies them to a practical chart. This square chart demonstrates a very specific layout. Take a look at Mars up there in the upper left. Based on those strict rules of drishti we just talked about, we can calculate precisely that Mars is casting its influence, or aspecting, Saturn, the Moon, and the nodes. It's essentially drawing these invisible, geometric lines of power straight across the chart. If you know the geometry, you know exactly where that planetary influence is going to land.
All right, let's get into the heavy-hitting stuff. Section 4, calculating the cosmic math.
Let's walk through the exact step-by-step subtraction formulas used to figure out what's called the drishti kona, or aspectual angle. Okay, step 1. You deduct the longitude of the aspected planet from the aspecting planet. Step 2, if that sum happens to exceed 180 degrees, you've got to deduct it again from 300 degrees.
Step 3, you convert that final sum into exact degrees. And then finally, step 4, divide by 2. Boom! That gives you the precise drishti kona. And I want to emphasize, this isn't just estimation or guesswork. This is pinpoint astronomical calculation used to determine the exact angle of influence.
But guess what? Calculating that base angle is literally just the beginning. The source text actually gives us 6 distinct, highly specialized mathematical rules to process that value, all depending on where the angle falls between 30 and 300 degrees. So, as an example, if your angle lands between 150 and 180 degrees, you have to apply a completely different mathematical operation than you would if it were between, say, 60 and 90 degrees. The level of complexity here is honestly astounding. It's a system perfectly designed to give specific weight to every single degree of distance.
On top of all that, the ancient scholars knew perfectly well that not all planets exert their influence equally. This brings us to some specific mathematical exceptions the text absolutely demands. When we evaluate virupas, which is essentially a unit of planetary strength, we have to add specific numerical values for certain planets at very specific angles. For instance, with Mars, you add 15 virupas at its designated degree ranges. For Jupiter, you add 30. And for Saturn, you're adding 45 virupas at its special angles. Doing this ensures that the unique gravitational or energetic weight of these specific planets is accurately locked into the final math.
And this brilliantly illustrates how all this dense ancient knowledge translates right into the modern day. What you're looking at here is a computerized speculum of aspectual values. Think about it. Instead of manually running all those intense, multi-step subtraction formulas, checking all 6 rules, and factoring in the Virupa exceptions by hand, by candlelight, every single time you want to cast a chart, well, modern practitioners use tables exactly like this to instantly convert those complex ancient degree calculations into highly usable data. I mean, it certainly makes you grateful for computers, right? The exact, rigorous ancient logic is entirely intact, it's just being computed instantly for efficiency.
Which perfectly sets us up for our final section. Section 5, synthesizing the horoscope. So when all that intense, intricate math we just went through aligns perfectly, something really special happens in the chart. We get what the texts call yogakarakas, or co-workers. As you can see defined here, these are 2 mutually angular planets that are endowed with specific dignities, like being in a state of exaltation, for example. When those precise mathematical angles lock in, these planets actually stop acting alone. They combine their forces to produce profound effects. They literally become a cosmic team working together.
So the crucial point is this. Constructing a horoscope is entirely about calculating these incredibly precise relationships. Check out this list of favorable planetary alignments that have to be mapped out. You've got mutual exchanges between lords, those mutual mathematical aspects, or drishti that we calculated earlier, conjunctions of lords, mutual angular placements, and mutual trinal placements. It is only through calculating these exact, mathematically verifiable relationships that you can actually unlock the true meaning of the horoscope. Seriously, when you pull up a birth chart online today, this exact ancient framework is the engine running under the hood.
All of this brings us to our final parting thought for today's explainer. Just look at the immense, rigorous geometric clockwork we've unpacked. If our lives are truly influenced by the exact mathematical angles, the highly specific degree formulas, and the shifting speeds of these distant planets, well, are we the authors of our own destiny, or are we simply reading a cosmic script written thousands of years ago in the language of mathematics? It absolutely makes you marvel at the sheer precision underlying ancient Vedic astrology. Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.